Throughout history, there have been more than 260 popes, most of whom have come from the territory of Italy, and all of whom have been men. However, there is a well-known legend of a female pope named Pope Joan. Welcome to the video about Pope Joan, the legendary female pope whose story has captured the imagination of people around the world for centuries. In this video, we'll explore the origins and evolution of the Pope Joan legend, as well as the controversy surrounding her existence. The legend of Pope Joan. The legend of Pope Joan tells the story of a woman who disguised herself as a man and rose to the highest position in the Catholic Church. According to the legend, Pope Joan was born in the 9th century in Mainz, Germany, and received an education in Athens, Greece. She eventually made her way to Rome, where she disguised herself as a man and became a cardinal. As a cardinal, Pope Joan was known for her intelligence and piety. She gained the respect of the other cardinals and was eventually elected pope. However, her reign was cut short and she gave birth during a procession through Rome. According to the legend, she was immediately exposed as a woman and was subsequently stoned to death by an angry mob. The origins of the legend. While much of Joan's life remains shrouded in mystery, there are several historic accounts that provide some details about her origins and rise to power. According to these accounts, Joan was born in the 9th century in Mainz, a medieval town in what is now modern-day Germany. She was the daughter of a cleric and received a strong education in theology and philosophy. Joan's intelligence and thirst for knowledge soon earned her a reputation as a skilled scholar and a teacher, and she was eventually invited to join the papal court in Rome, where she served as a tutor to powerful clerics and nobles. It was during this time that Joan reportedly caught the eye of the reigning Pope Leo IV, who was impressed by her intellect and charisma. She quickly rose through the ranks of the church, eventually becoming a cardinal and the Pope's closest advisor. But when the Pope suddenly died, she found herself thrust into the role of leader of the Catholic Church and was elected as his successor by a group of cardinals who were unaware of her true identity. The legend goes that Joan managed to conceal her true identity from the public eye for several years, but was ultimately exposed when she gave birth in the middle of a procession through the streets of Rome. After being dragged through the streets and stoned by an angry mob, she was said to have died and been buried in the same spot where she fell. The legend of Pope Joan has been around for centuries, but its origins are shrouded in mystery. The first references to Pope Joan appear in the 13th century in the chronicles of various medieval writers. The most famous of these writers was Jean de Mailly, a French Dominican friar who wrote a chronicle of the world in the 13th century. In his chronicle, he tells the story of Pope Joan, who he claims was a woman who disguised herself as a man and became pope. However, the story of Pope Joan, as told by Jean de Mailly, contains many inconsistencies. For example, he places her reign in the 9th century, and there is no historical evidence of a female pope during that time. Other chronicles of the time, including an English Benedictine monk, Matthew Paris, and a 13th century Dominican friar, and later a bishop, Martin of Opava, also wrote about Pope Joan, but their accounts are similarly unreliable. Despite the lack of historical evidence, the legend persisted over the centuries, and the story was retold and embellished by various writers and artists. In the 16th century, the Protestant reformer Martin Luther wrote about Pope Joan in his Table Talk, using the story to criticize the Catholic Church. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the story of Pope Joan became popular in Europe and was depicted in art and literature. One of the most famous depictions of Pope Joan is a statue in Rome, which shows her giving birth during a procession and being attacked by an angry mob. In recent years, the story of Pope Joan has been the subject of much debate and controversy among historians. Some argue that the legend is entirely fictional, while others suggest that there may be some truth to the story. The legend of Pope Joan raises questions of how history is written and remembered. as well as women's roles in the church and society. The controversy over Pope Joan's existence. The story of Pope Joan has long been a source of debate among historians, with some arguing that the legend is entirely fictional, while others suggest that there may be some truth to the story. Those who believe in the existence of Pope Joan point to various historical accounts, including the writings of chroniclers such as Jean de Mailly, Martin of Pava, and Matthew Paris, who all wrote about a female pope in the 13th century. They also point to the fact that the Catholic Church has never officially denied the existence of Pope Joan, which some argue suggests that there may be some truth to this story. However, others argue that the story of Pope Joan is entirely fictional and that there is no historical evidence to support her existence. They point to the many inconsistencies in the various accounts of Pope Joan, as well as lack of contemporary documentation or mention of her in historical records. One of the main arguments against the existence of Pope Joan is the fact that the earliest references to her appear more than 3 centuries after the supposed reign of the female pope. The controversy over Pope Joan's existence continues to this day, with some scholars arguing that the story of Pope Joan should have been viewed as a legend or myth, rather than a historical fact. The legacy of Pope Joan. Despite the ongoing debate over whether or not Pope Joan was a real person, her story has a lasting impact on Western culture, and has been the subject of countless works of literature, art, and film. The story of Pope Joan has also been used to critique the Catholic Church and its history of male-dominated leadership. Some scholars argue that the legend of Pope Joan was created as a means of criticizing the corruption and immorality of the Church. In recent years, there have been renewed efforts to uncover the truth behind the legend of Pope Joan, with historians and scholars exploring the historical records and evidence to determine whether or not the female pope actually existed. Regardless of the debate over her existence, the story of Pope Joan remains a powerful and enduring symbol of hope, courage, and resistance. We hope you've enjoyed learning about this fascinating historical figure and her story. If you have any questions or comments about the video, please leave them in the comment section below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.